Good afternoon. We are once again live. Checking out something new today. So let's get everything switched over to the right layout, and I will intro what we're going to be playing through in today's stream. I'm going to turn on the BGM playlist. I'll explain why in a minute. But we'll get this running in the background. All right, we'll leave that right there. And if I need to adjust it, I can always up or lower the volume as necessary. All right, we are going to be taking a look at a game called Dyson Sphere Program. And this is one I've been wanting to cover here on the channel for a bit. This is a game that I'm a really big fan of, and it's pretty interesting. And it's going to be very different from everything else that we've looked at here on the channel. So for both people tuning in live on Twitch and people watching this in the VOD archive later, hopefully it'll be an interesting overview of a game that I think is one of the most interesting in its genre. And I'll kind of explain that as a bit of a preamble to what we're going to be doing today. So Dyson Sphere Program is currently an early access game, and this is on Steam. And the genre that this game falls into is the automation factory sim genre, which is got a decent number of significant titles in it. I got into this genre a couple years ago. A friend of mine got me into a game called Factorio, which is kind of similar to this game. I think really kicked off the automation genre, but this one is a lot more complicated in scope and what it tries to do. And that's why I chose to show this one off instead of Factorio, since I've put a lot of hours into both. Comparatively, I think I've spent more time in Factorio than Dyson Sphere, just because I've only been playing this for maybe several months. Hey, Red Dragon's here. What's up, Red Dragon? Welcome to the stream. I'm just giving a little bit of an intro as to what we're looking at today. And so Dyson Sphere Program, I think it came out a little over a year ago in early access and has been getting systematic updates. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about the main reason why I wanted to start playing this on stream now, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And even though it's early access, I think I've spent on my main file almost 100 hours. And I haven't beaten the game yet, quote unquote beaten it and accomplished everything that you can do in the game. So there's a lot of meat there. But we're going to start a new file that'll be the dedicated file for stream here. And I think unless I hit some sort of grind points, I won't be doing anything off stream with it. We'll have to see. The main purpose is to try and make progress and accomplish everything we can on stream here. And this is probably going to be a long play. We'll go ahead and get started, and then I will explain what the game is about. Okay, there's a bit of procedural generation for where you start, and I'll explain what all this means in a sec. I think we'll go probably in the middle for number of stars. We're basically setting the galactic system that we're going to be more or less living in. I'll go in the middle on the resource multiplier, maybe a little higher than middle. This stuff doesn't really matter. This game uses a seed-based system, kind of like Minecraft, to generate an environment that's going to start you in, and we're going to be dropped right here in the middle. All right, let's go ahead and start. It's going to give me the entire intro.
Welcome to the actual universe.
Okay, we
You
can
may find it's different from our homeland.
let the narrator
Should
kind of
you be
explain
able to
here.
adapt to the laws of physics in a short time, I am your advisor and will help you through this mission. Everything here is yours. As one of Cosmo and the pioneer of the Dyson Sphere Program, you will explore this cluster step by step. By using the resources here to construct the Dyson Sphere to provide energy for the center brain to maintain homeland, starting from scratch. I have chosen a designated planet for you to start the mission, which has necessary resources for initial development. Now please drive the space capsule to the planet.
Okay, we've got control. We're sort of on rails here. This is just the intro to set us up on where we're going to be starting. So basically, we're an agent of some sort of large entity corporation that's out colonizing the stars. The story is pretty much non-existent here. You don't have to worry about story. But we're being sent to a planet.
Now you are about to reach the designated planet.
That's a lot of water.
This is Icarus, a lightweight industrial mecha with powerful functionality. You can use the arrow keys or right-click on the destination to control its movement. In this mission, you will manipulate Icarus to travel beyond the stars and create miracles.
Okay. From here on out, I'm going to just minimize the narrator. I'll explain what we're doing here. I'm going to have to sit and listen to the game explain it.
Now try to...
Yeah. And little tooltips I don't necessarily need at the moment. So the basic premise of Dyson Sphere Program is you control the mecha. Again, it's called Icarus. It's this large, big, chunky boy of a mech. And the whole point of the game, the narrator mentioned when we were flying through space, is to build and refine technology and work up like a tech tree structure and automate basically one big giant or series of bases in order to create what's called a Dyson Sphere, which is a big structure that encloses and harnesses the power of a star. I haven't actually finished doing that yet in any of my playthroughs, but doing that essentially beats the game, I believe. But in being dropped onto a planet, we have to basically start researching technology from the ground up and figuring out ways to build a functioning base that's going to allow us to continue to progress in our research, move up the tech tree, and allow us to branch out into more advanced technology that continues to make progress till we get to the advanced levels of creating this complex structure. And so immediately when we're dropped in, based on the seed generation, we're dropped in on a planet that...
Yet you have no...
Yeah, whatever. Each planet that you start on, I believe, has got kind of like a basic set of parameters, and I'll explain what all that means in a sec. But first, we'll break down the pod that we landed in. We get raw materials from that.
You receive several items.
But if we take a look at the map,
In the planet.
Yep, we can zoom out to view the whole planet itself. And it's very Earth-like. You can see continents. This one's a lot of water. That's going to be a problem, I think. But more or less, a mix of kind of forested areas. And eventually we'll get the ability to see the resource deposits all around the planet, which is going to be important when we figure out how we're going to start harvesting resources and using them to build things. If we zoom out using V to the star map, we can see our placement in the actual planetary system. And real quick, just for the sake of consistency, we're going to name this one Home Star. You have the ability to rename planets and systems. And for this one, since we started here, we're going to call this one Homeworld. That will come into play later, as we'll see. So basic controls with Icarus. This thing starts off pretty slow and clunky with its walk speed. We can use WASD to move around. If we right click on something like I was doing with the trees, we can harvest things individually. If we wanted to set up multiple commands to knock down a bunch of trees at once, you could just shift right click in order and it'll queue. Likewise, if we go to a resource deposit, like these are iron veins, these blue crystals. If we right click, our mech will just sit there and mine away and we'll accumulate more of the iron. If we take a look at our inventory, this is the raw ore for iron that's being mined just constantly. We've got logs. Plant fuel comes from just brush, plants, things you pick up. These hydrogen fuel rods are a fuel source. So if we hit C, we actually see the panel for our mech overall. And I'll worry about the customization later. For now, we'll just leave it on the defaults. But you have to fuel your giant robot. And if you run out of fuel, you won't be able to move. And you won't be able to do anything. You can use things like the logs and the plant materials to serve as fuel as well. And for breaking down the pod, we got a bunch of raw materials. Iron ingots, magnets, copper ingots, and this is our ore. If we hit F, this pulls up a tab called the replicator. This allows us to build things on the fly using the materials we've got in our immediate inventory. And in the beginning, before you get into the whole automation part of Dyson Sphere Program, you're going to be crafting a lot of stuff by hand, but the point is to set up facilities in a way that it's automated and you're not sitting here building stuff constantly. But we can see raw materials that we can craft from things just mined from the environment, which I'll show in a sec when I walk around a bit more. But from the iron ore, we can craft ingots. We can craft magnets. From the ingots, we can craft gears. And the components are down here. It'll show you what you need in order to craft the respective part. In order to craft magnetic coils, we need the raw magnets from the ore. And then we need copper ingots, which we've got 10 of. For circuit boards, we need copper ingots and iron ingots together, and we can craft these computer boards. I guess I'll explain this last one too. Stone bricks, we need raw stone ore, which is crafted into this. And kernel ender buildings, these are structures that we'd be able to build and put down for our base. We currently don't have any unlocked. And in order to do that, if we hit T, this is the tech tree, part of the tech tree for Dyson Sphere Program. And it's big. Right? Our end goal down here is our target. But in order to get there, we've got to work through all these tiers of technology that we upgrade and unlock and use to build more advanced structures that further our progress along the tree. In addition to this massive web of upgrades, or technology rather, we have a different tab with a different set of upgrades for our actual mech. And all of these things slightly change how the mech behaves, whether it's improving its overall stores of energy, improving its movement, improving your inventory capacity. We'll look at the drones in a second, but all of these things are pretty necessary in order to facilitate your progress. And so you have basically two massive spreads of upgrades that you have to work through as you go about researching and upgrading your base and creating all of these systems in order to do that. And so, before we kind of get into the progression, I mentioned there was a reason why I wanted to show this game off on stream. So, unlike some of the other factory and automation sim games, there is no hostile component to Dyson Sphere Program. You're in the world, there's no other wildlife really, it's just you and a giant robot harvesting materials and building things and making progress that way. In December, unless the date's been moved back, there's going to be a pretty sizable update coming for this game that is going to introduce a hostile alien invasion element where things attack you. Hey, first time chat from TF Gandji. Is that how you say your name? Welcome. Welcome to the stream. We're taking a first look at Dyson Sphere Program. Well, feel free to hang out. Oh, TFG? All right. Oh, is it TFGNG? Is that how you read it? TFG it is, though. Thank you for clarifying. But yes, we're taking a first look at Dyson Sphere Program, and I'm kind of explaining the premise here for folks on the stream. Oh, I see. TFG and G. The G is your dog. Gotcha. I'll do my best to remember that. And so upcoming relatively soon, I think next month, unless they change it, there will be an update that introduces an alien force that will actively attack you as you play the game. And so I wanted to spend some time playing through it on stream to get better at the game so that by the time that update hits, we can look at that on stream as well, and I'll hopefully be able to navigate it properly. Okay, is it 15th of December? I'm gonna assume you've played this before, TFG, if you know about it, which is good. You might be able to give me some pointers if I do anything really stupid. I was telling the chat that I have played Dyson Sphere Program before. I'm currently really close to the end of the game, but I haven't quite beaten it yet on my first major playthrough. I'm at like 70 hours. And so I'm starting up a new one here to kind of take what I've learned and try and do it better. TFG says I have about 3.5k hours playing. All right, well, we definitely have someone who's more experienced than me, which is good. I know the game's been out for a couple years in early access now. But it should be an interesting playthrough. All right. So we need to start researching some tech in order to start building. And just for reference, especially for folks like TFG who've seen this game before and know a lot about it, this is not a speed run by any means. I've only done maybe 2 or 3 playthroughs of this at different phases before I stopped. The most recent of the one that I was working on, which is in the end game, close to the end, is the farthest I've gotten. And so I'm always down for hearing more efficient ways to do things, since that's the whole point of a game like this. I see Sour Lad's here. What's up, Sour Lad? How are you doing today? Okay, let me kind of explain again for folks who haven't seen this before. What I'm doing with the research. So when you queue research, it goes into sort of in order as you have the resources available in order to get the research completed. And like this is saying, I need the magnetic coils in order for this thing to kick off. Starland says I can't sleep. Well, that's no good. I'm gonna assume you haven't gone out into work today on Black Friday, because I know you normally work nights. So I hope you get some rest before that, if so. TFG? Yeah, TFG says, look at your gas giant when you get a chance. This is the star at the center of our system. I don't know too much about the parameters and significance behind the stat parameters, so if we eventually get there, you'll have to let me know. But first off, let's get started. We need to craft 10 of the rings, which we have enough for just from breaking down the pod. And then once we've got the requisite materials in our inventory or through the research, which we'll see later, once we've got what we need, it'll start diverting that over to the actual research, and we'll see it making progress. And then when it's done, we'll get a pop-up. I should be mining stuff, not just standing around idly. I'm not used to narrating while playing this game, so that's going to be a bit of an adjustment, but we'll be all right.
You have created a...
Yeah. I think we want smelting next. Smelting or logistics. All these first tier ones, once we open everything up, we're just going to need to do in order anyway, so maybe I should just queue them all up. We'll do a few of these at a time. You could do up to 5, I think, 5 or 6. And then now that we've got basic upgrades, these start unlocking as well. And we can throw resources into each of these tiers of unlocks as we get them available. Like this one is total max energy, which is nice. Movement and everything else is also pretty handy. But we should probably grab some copper. Starlet says, I don't think people want McDonald's after Thanksgiving. You would think not, but I imagine if you were working during the day on Black Friday, since people are out and about, it would be pretty busy. People, running between retail outlets and stopping to get fast food. I had to go grocery shopping earlier today, and it was not terribly busy, thankfully. I think the malls and whatnot are a zoo today. I do not go out on Black Friday. Okay, let's take a look at what we can actually drop down for opening up that first tier of technology. It gave us a free wind turbine. Let me rearrange stuff. Gave us a Tesla tower and a mining machine. Usually I just stick all of my random things down here. But now, if we look at the toolbar here on the bottom, which corresponds to the number keys. Fit 1, this is the power tab. We could put down...
Insufficient requirement.
Yeah.
Wind turbine.
Yeah. This is a wind turbine. This thing generates electricity and energy for us to use and power our structures. It's pretty simple and will not be something we rely on for the entirety of the game. But for now, it's our only real means of harnessing energy in order to power things that we put down as structures. So I'm going to do a mining device here over on iron, since we're going to need a lot of iron. So under gathering, which is the menu corresponding to number 2, we can see the mining machine. And we want to position this thing so it covers as many of these nodes as possible. I think 6 or 7 is good.
One of your production facilities is not powered. You need to keep it within the power coverage area and supply.
All right, yeah.
Power.
So I'm putting down
building the first.
Shut up. In putting down one of these wind turbines, it establishes a power grid. But like the announcer was saying, in order to power a structure, it has to be within. Actually, we could probably do this. make it a little easier. I'll use that power pole for something else. Let's put it right here. If we don't have it within a coverage area, the thing won't run. But now this thing is actively harvesting ore from the minerals and stacking it up here. So if we wanted, we could just pull it out in our inventory. I did see Sarlad wishing everyone a late Thanksgiving. Luffy got attacked by a tree at the Macy parade. Uh-oh. I'm sure that traumatized people. TFG asks, when is the last time you played this? Yesterday. I was working on my main playthrough yesterday. That's the one that's in the pretty close to the end game. So recently, I wanted to make sure that I at least could speak to the basics of how to play this game. So I've been playing this a lot recently, which is why I'm starting a playthrough here on Twitch. We're just starting from scratch. Okay, so let's look and see. We need to craft a bunch of ingots. Over here in the replicator, we can set our quantity up to 10 times, which, as far as I know, is probably the most efficient way to do it if you've got to craft things in bulk. And since we know we're going to need a lot of these ingots, I'm just going to set this thing to create a bunch of stacks of this and maybe some of the magnets. Because we'll need the ingots in order to craft gears. And then we'll need to craft the copper ingots in order to get the circuit boards. Likewise, since we opened up that one tier of technology, we can now see that we've got the ability to craft the Tesla towers. That takes the magnetic coils and the iron ingots, and more of the wind turbines, which takes iron ingots, gears, magnetic coils. The mining machines take ingots, circuit boards, coils, gears. So each time we unlock a tier of technology, it's going to populate either the regular item list or the building list with stuff that we can make. Okay, we'll craft some gears. We know we need 10 for the current research thing that's pending. And we can queue up things in the replicator so we're not constantly jumping back and forth between the menus, which is probably a smart thing to do. And if we queue up things that we have the raw resources for, which is with this big number up here. Oh, I can't see it if my head's in front of it. But there's a construction icon here that shows a number in the upper right. That means that's the total amount of things we can create with whatever we've got in our inventory. And so if we don't have the raw material crafted, but we can make it, it'll basically just queue up creating the required material before it dumps it into what we're trying to make, which is handy. Eventually we'll want to actually have all of this stuff mapped out so that we don't have to be constantly crafting things directly from our inventory. That's the short-term goal. But now we can see the first few things that we created with the circuit boards and the gears are now being consumed to research up here with the logistics. And then it's going to do the metallurgy next, which is going to need... yeah, circuit boards will be enough. But we need more mining machines. Let's build 5 of them. And we'll need to grab more of these wind turbines in order to power all of our stuff.
You have received the sorter and the conveyor belt.
Okay, that's basic logistics. I'll explain what that is in a sec. I'll leave things here. I have kind of a usual order I put everything in my inventory, but for now, we're going to be consuming stuff relatively quickly, so it won't matter too much. Alright, gotta hydrate and stretch. We've got 8 of the power wind turbines queued. Is it shift? No, there. Or is it control? I think there's a way to grab that stuff directly from the mining machine without opening it up. Control. I got it. So in researching kind of optimum strats, and I guess TFG, you can corroborate whether or not this is true since you played this more than I have. It sounds like people in the early game that rely on wind power basically create like a field of wind turbines kind of away from the central base, and then use the poles to wire it to like a power grid instead of, you know, sporadically putting the wind turbines throughout all over the place and cluttering up the base. That's what I've done on a couple of my playthroughs in the short term until I can get a better power setup. So I guess we can do that sort of off on the side here and put down a couple rows of the wind turbines. Part of the fun of automation games like this, once you learn how to play it and how everything works, is figuring out a way to build your bases better, more efficiently, and more aesthetically nice. When you're first learning, it's basically just chaos with stuff all over. My very first playthrough, if I were to load it up, the entire base is just an affront to the senses because everything is all over, nothing is organized, looks really bad. But as you learn, kind of figure out the efficient ways to put stuff together, then it means your base construction gets better as well. Okay, we'll put this here. And I'm going to put the turbines. We'll start building them off to the side for now. TFG says, if you really want to be speedy, burn coal. I just don't like burning resources when I don't need to. Yeah, I'll convert to coal once we have a stable way to accumulate that. I learned some useful things about the coal power sources just recently and how to organize them so they take up less space, so that was nice. Let's get some more of these. One thing I haven't done a lot of, and we'll see it once I unlock it later, I haven't done a lot with solar power. I know that's another way to harness power, but I don't normally do like solar panel arrays. I'd be interested to hear strategies that people use for that. TFG says, coal's the most useful mat in the game since the proliferation coal plus power equals anything you want. Yeah, that's definitely true. We won't see proliferation for a while. But being able to basically speed up the efficiency of what you're doing makes it pretty versatile. And I got kind of cursed in one of my other playthroughs of being in a bunch of systems with not a lot of coal deposits. We can't see it yet. I need to actually unlock that upgrade so we can see the resources. Let's see what's next. I think we need to get to research. Science. electromagnetic matrix, or the quote-unquote respective color sciences, which I think is shorthand for most automation games that I've seen, since in Factorial we call it the same thing. But these cubes, which will be referred to as blue science until someone tells me not to do that, this is sort of the cornerstone for researching more of the other things. These matrices are required to unlock things in the next tier of tech, so we want that as soon as possible. 10 coil, 10 boards. Oop. Where is the nearest coal? GFG says everyone calls them color research. Yeah. I've heard them called cubes. I've heard them called science, because in Factorio, which is another game I've played a lot of, they're called science for shorthand, but it's the same thing. They're not cubes. I think they're vials, like little flasks, but they provide the same function of research. So I think that just became like universal shorthand, and everyone kind of knows that's what we call them. Okay, coal deposits here. Another coal deposit. Oh, there's a lot of coal deposits here. That's nice. Normally not that lucky. So we could probably set up a coal burning power farm here later once we get that tech unlocked. It'll be a minute. Okay, put you down here. I think we need to start actually building some facilities to process these things that we've got here instead of just crafting it directly. So once we have these mining machines set up, one thing that I'll try and do on the fly here so I don't forget, we can use conveyor belts to basically traffic the raw materials being mined and harvested at all these different spots to wherever we need them, to transport them or to move them towards some destination. Likewise, actually, we don't have assemblers yet, do we? Need assemblers. I want to try something that I haven't done in one of my playthroughs, and DFG, since again you know the game better than I do, you could tell me if it's common practice for people to set up. I just want to see how it sort of affects the way I build, see if I like it. But we need more ingots in the meantime. So the question, I can't do it yet because I don't have the replicator or assemblers researched yet. But what I've seen, it was a speed run I was watching earlier just while I was eating lunch. I saw the player take the mining machines and then hook them up directly to smelters and hook the smelters directly up to the assemblers to craft certain parts. I think it was for, on the iron side, it was for gears, and then they had another one hooked up that was feeding directly into something hooked up to copper in order to make circuit boards. So instead of having like a spaghetti system where you're feeding belts to assemblers, they had it hooked up directly to the miner, like 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I just don't have it researched at the moment. Because what I've done, and I could show the stream this just for while we're waiting. What I've done in the past is I will run the belts, and you can see it snap to a construction grid. I need to be careful how I'm building so I don't just clutter everything up, but there it goes. Okay. When we put down anything for construction, these little drone things are the control drones that are actively building whatever we're telling them to build. We'll be able to upgrade later and get them to be faster, get more of them, get them to zip out quicker and drop stuff down so we're not waiting a few seconds. But what we have here, this is the assembling machine. So if we put this down, it's under 5. Actually, no, can't do that yet. That takes the materials and will assemble and create things that we normally have been doing from our inventory here. But before we can do that, we need to actually do something with all of this. So let me explain that setup I was telling TFG, and we'll go from there. Oh, I guess I can't really do that if I'm at an angle, huh? Can you go at an angle with the sorters?
You built a smelter, which can smelt basic materials, such as iron ingots and copper ingots automatically. While you want to make the raw materials,
Doesn't look like you can do that. Thought you could.
You need to use sorters.
You have to put like one belt out and then the smelter. I think maybe that's how they did it. Okay. Yeah, okay, shut up. So in our logistics panel here, these things called sorters essentially move stuff from one point to another. So if we move it from the end of the belt into our smelter, and we power it, and we tell the smelter itself, this is an arc smelter.
You have a building.
Yep. We say, take the raw iron ore and create ingots. Then it'll start feeding
After selecting the recipe,
things coming out of the mining machine directly into the sorter, into the smelter, and it'll just start crafting the ingots on its own. And it'll just hold them. I think this thing can hold, what was it, 20? I guess we'll see. And I'll just leave them here. Just like before, we can grab them. And now we've got the ingots being produced by the smelter. So what I was trying to explain, let's see if this is far enough. In the setup I was watching on the speed run, this person had set all of their things up to basically go 1 to 1 to 1 like this. And they set this one to, let's say, gears, for example. There you go. We need to wire it to the grid over here. Then we can get rid of this. And so you've got the mining machine feeding ore directly out to the smelter, and the smelter feeding directly to the assembling machine, and it's creating gears. And I saw them dump the stuff from here into like a storage thing so they could just grab it and it would accumulate, since there's a limit to how much these things can hold before they stop producing. TFG says, yeah, not really efficient. You can see how it would get stuff out early on. Yeah. Basically, it was like a hybrid setup with this and then feeding things over. The person obviously had the build dialed in very specifically to move quickly. But I guess for the sake of what we're doing here, I'm going to leave this one for now. I don't have storage researched yet, do I? Nope. Oh, it's up here. Yeah, I do have storage. These things that look like boxes over here. Storage, which requires stone, brick, plus ingots, allows us to basically create chests to dump stuff into. CFG says, got to have a timing differential issue. Since gears take longer than ingots to make, so smelter is sort of waiting a lot. Yeah, I think the person who did this knew what the timing was, so that they're basically using what was being produced directly and what was being stored, and running around in a real tight base configuration, just grabbing everything constantly. There was no idle time, and they knew the timing on everything, so that all the stuff that was spitting things out was being grabbed, and it was really impressive to watch. That's the level of micro I don't have. I haven't been playing this that long. But we'll leave the gear one for now, and then I'll kind of construct everything else the way I'm used to, since I know how to do that effectively. Right, and setup can't be proliferated, so it's basically like a really fast accelerated start setup. And then as the person got all the basic stuff out of the way, I saw them switch to a more regular automated setup with belts and moving stuff along, probably with the intention of using the proliferation later. But it was interesting to see. Very, very different approach to what I know about the game. Like the completion time from start to finish of the run was 4 hours to do everything, which is at least as of a couple years ago was a world record, which is pretty impressive. I'm not there yet. I just want to beat the game. Then I'll figure out how to do it quickly. Okay, I'm gonna create some storage things. That way we can dump all the gears that are here into something. And then I'll probably, since we have a couple clusters of minerals here, I'll create just like a regular automated setup. Let's see where we got to research next. I think we need to get blue research. So to that end, we're going to need circuit boards and coils. And we're going to need more belts. Lots of belts. This is why we need the gears. Another thing I saw the person do, which is pretty interesting strategy that I didn't even think to do. I don't have it unlocked yet, but there's something that you can get called a wireless power pole in a little bit, and it can distribute power over a larger area, but also recharge your mech. My fuel is empty here, so I had to drop fuel back in so I can move. Those will be stuck. But this person was dropping down the wireless poles to create like a temporary power field. They would get their energy back up, then just delete them, pick them back up, and then keep going. Usually what I've done is just knock down every tree in the area until I can get like a reliable source of coal, since the plant material burns the fastest, then the logs, then the coal. And so if you don't have a steady supply of power, you'll run out. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Nah, that's too close. Alright, let's put a storage crate here. So if you use a sorter to pull stuff
You built a storage, which can be used
out of the assembler, it's going to take all these gears and it's going to dump them to a spot that's got a lot more slots to just hold on to these. You can scale them down if you only wanted to maybe make a couple stacks. I think we'll just leave it open for now since we're going to need these gears for a lot. But I think our first objective is going to need to be automating production of the coils and the circuit boards, since that's what we need. So I'm going to grab some belts, go out this way, and smelt, or set up smelters to create copper ingots from the mining site here. Just like that, we've chewed through all of our fuel. Let's grab that upgrade. Core power. Man, there's a lot of coal. This is the other side of the base. I think there's more on that side. I guess that'll be handy for later. Yeah, even coal is consumed relatively quickly, but it lasts a little bit longer than the wood and the plant material. All right. We'll come back for more of that. We need 7 more ingots. If anything, doing this direct setup and having this smelter go directly into a box probably would have been more handy than going gears for now. We do need gears, but we need ingots for everything as well. I guess it doesn't really matter. Didn't mean to put a bend there. Okay, core upgrades done. Could upgrade our, well, no, we don't have iron or steel. Yeah, I think we need to focus on getting blue research. So to that end, we'll start putting down some smelters. One handy feature that I learned far too late into my first playthrough, when you're setting up multiple structures, one, you can copy and paste them, which we'll be able to do, I think, once we research the mass construction. But instead of manually setting the target for whatever it is you're smelting, crafting, etc., if you hit right arrow or what is this, comma on the keyboard, you can copy the recipe and then period, just paste it. So if we had a whole line of these things, we just copy the recipe from one and just paste it real quickly, instantly. Go through all of them. And we got a hydrate from Saralad. Alright, so now we got ingots. We need to craft some more smelters and do the same thing for copper. And we'll go ahead and save. We're going to call this Space Beatopia. So what it did was it pulled out all the items to create the components, and now it's actually crafting the smelters. Oh, we're out of sorters. Eventually, I don't know if I'll have to do it once I revamp this base, or if I move somewhere else, but I'll have to create a mall, which is like a centralized location for all of your basic materials. And mall setups are handy because instead of jumping around from constant site to site and menu to get different things, you have all of these resources and replicators and everything feeding into one spot and having all of your things in like one shop. That's why they call it a mall. But we don't have the means to do that yet. Okay, we need a bunch of sorters. In fact, let's cancel that. Another thing I saw that speedrunner do is they did a lot of the crafting of the science from their inventory first before they set up this really simple, efficient method to automate that. I've always had sites for the research and then had everything feeding into that specifically. I don't know if that's the most efficient way to do it, but it seemed to work. Okay, so we got those set up. DFG says, do you know about shift clicking buildings to copy? I've always done it from the Control C, but I need to make that habit. So thanks for reminding me. That's correct. You can direct copy buildings. Is it 1 for 1? You can't do more than one, can you? No, it's just one at a time. Oh, you can drag. I got you. Okay. I think I'm gonna pull everything from here. And over here. I usually do my smelters in groups of 3 before I drop power down. There, trying to make a habit. Like TFG said, normally you would want all of your stuff placed and you're just copying everything at once. But everything's moving much slower than I'm used to. Yeah, because if you have the belt set up with the input and the output, then it just copies everything. So you could do that. And then you have a 4th one there. Okay. And they're out of power again. This is what we want. Wireless power tower. That will allow us to put basically mobile power wherever to recharge instead of having to constantly use environmental fuel, but we're not quite there yet. Let me grab some coal. We'll need to drop down more of the turbines at some point. If everything is running, we're going to hit capacity really quick. while this is harvesting some coal for fuel, let's see. So we can make some of these. We'll make some ingots. We'll get that out of the inventory too. It's fine. Actually, I'm a moron. Here's what I should be doing. Set up a mining machine, run power from the field. Now we can just go and grab stuff from this thing whenever we need coal and just let it run in the background. I should have done that to start. Whoops. Okay, let's get back to over here. What I wanted to do is run this belt all the way over here. Again, this is not ideally the most efficient way to do this, but I just want to have it set up so I can start building things that are going to give me circuit boards. We'll need to craft more replicators. Or assemblers, rather. I want this stuff spitting out here. So what we've created, again, this is going to be probably really sloppy for a bit, but usually the startup bases are always pretty sloppy. We've created a line of copper, a line of iron, and now we're going to use the assemblers to start turning these into our circuit boards. Sarlat says, I'm going to try to get more sleep, have fun. Alright, Sarlat, thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a good nap, get some rest, and I will catch you in the next one, my dude. Okay, what we're gonna have this assembler do is pull things from this line and this line, and then we'll spit it out over here. And I'm going to make a series of these that are pulling from these lines, and this will be our circuit boards. Then I'll need to do something similar for the magnetic coils, and then those are going to be used to create our blue research. Okay, let's do this. This is faster. So we've got two sorters over here, one over here. This is going to be making circuit boards. And then just like that, now we have an automated setup that's creating circuit boards. So now we need to do something similar and then get the magnetic coils. Actually, let's do this. We can at least get the research stuff going. It's going to be slow, but that's okay. First, let me grab some ore and make some magnets. I'm going to put our research facility here just as a placeholder. So this thing,
Matrix Lab.
it's a matrix lab. This is what we use to funnel all of our research resources into creating things, and or we use this particular structure to create the resources. So it's twofold. They can either manufacture the cubes or take the cubes that are manufactured or created and use them for the research. So we're going to set this thing to research and manually do this for the first couple until we can automate it. So let's give us 20. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, we need to create a separate system that's going to get us the coils. Maybe we can do this, since this thing, I guess, only holds 50. Let's create a real simple storage receptacle for all the coal. Eventually we're going to take this and divert it elsewhere or turn this into power. But for now, we're just going to have it continuously mine and dump coal in here so we can grab it and use it for fuel. All right. So when we have circuit boards and coils in our inventory, we can craft the blue cubes directly if we want. So until we get this automated like the other ones, we can just pull a bunch of stuff in here. And since I'm going to be running back and forth crafting stuff anyway, we're just going to have it create these in the background. And now we need to create a separate mining site to manufacture the magnets. And then we'll pull all those down here towards the spot where we're manufacturing all the copper to create the coils. I guess we can run it. Let's get rid of you. Put you somewhere else. I was thinking we can run it parallel. Have all the smelting or the ore run this way, and then run the smelters underneath, and then belt that south. And route of sorters again. Okay. I'm gonna have to be running back and forth between the sites. It's okay. Oh, with the 30 we crafted, if we jump back to our research, what should I do first? Maybe I should get some of these upgrades first. Not that one. Not that one. That's 100. Oh, this is only 100 boards. Could do that. Let me get some more of the logistics materials first. In theory, what I could also do is build just a storage chest down here, but I'll just grab it by hand. Yeah, let's do that one. Those allow us to use blueprints. And we'll make more sorters. That way I can copy these structures easier. We'll throw the belts up here, and then I'm going to run it south. And I think I'm going to have... wish we had more copper. Okay. Might have to build another 3 smelters going off in another direction to build the coils. And we're out of poles. Out of poles, out of energy. Okay, that's better. Since we have the chest storing all of the stuff in stacks, we can grab a lot more at once. And we're definitely running a bit high on power consumption as well. Put a couple more turbines down here. I might need to go north to a separate open section, just lay out like a dozen of these, but I'll worry about that in a bit. Okay, we want these creating magnets from the raw ore. Oh, I forget to put the input. Let's make some more belts. I'm gonna start running magnets south, and we're gonna need to start working on more copper for coils. Okay, we got blueprints. I'll explain what that feature is briefly, since it's going to come into play a little later, since I don't really have the resources or the space. And here's a question for folks who've played this more. Is it normal practice for people to beeline towards the terrain alteration upgrade so that you can basically map out more area to work with? Because I did that in one other playthrough I did while I was on a trip, just because I was messing around with the game. I started in an area with tons of water like this, and so instead of moving sites or having belts going from everywhere, I basically just started blocking in and filling in all of the areas of water to give myself more space. Okay, so we're gonna need steel in order to get the terrain stuff. That is, where's that? Environmental modification, it's over here. Yep. Gets us foundation. This lets us block in and give us more building area. But we can't get there quite yet. We can work towards it though. We can get steel smelting. Or what else is here? Fluid storage. I'll get this one for now. And we need more poles. Yep. We'll craft more power poles. I never have enough of those. What the Matrix Lab is doing is it's consuming the cubes of the blue science, and it is actively using it to research this particular tech upgrade right here. And ideally what we want to do once we build out this base a little bit more is we want to have a stack of these things taking in the components to create the blue science and then feeding them over to another facility that's eating them up and using them for the research. And maybe I'll build them side by side. I've done that before. And then that'll be a good temporary site for the moment, like a temporary solution. TFG says, I totally suggest getting splitters online. Those things are sort of OP now. Splitters are advanced logistics. Up here. I've used these mostly to merge different paths together and get them sorted. What makes them OP? I'd be curious to know, since that probably means I'm not using them correctly, which is going to apply to most things that I do in this game for a bit. I know you can have it take one belt of cargo that's coming in, if it's multiple different things on one belt, and it'll send them off in different directions so they're not all muddled up in one spot. TFG says, the fact that you can put storage on them now, also their variants are super handy too. You can put storage on splitters? I don't think I've ever tried that. Huh. I will have to look at that when I get there. That's news to me. Once I get that unlocked, I might have to have you guide me through what that means if it's not self-explanatory, but that sounds pretty useful. Just to real quickly explain something that got unlocked for people who haven't seen it. TFG knows this already, so I won't bother trying to explain it in super elementary detail, but if I hit O on the blueprint library, one thing that's handy about games like this is as you start putting together builds and structure plans for your base, you can save them as blueprints and then you can use them in the future. And so this is a list of things I've downloaded from the Dyson Sphere Program blueprint site. These are not ones I made. These are ones that I grabbed that were pretty useful. The most useful is probably this one, which we won't see and play for a bit. But this setup for hydrogen and... oh, what's the thing? The energized coal or whatever it is upgrade. That particular thing, it's like a cyclical infinite generator that can spit out those two primary components, is super handy. That changed the way my bases work. I really like that one. But you can use the base blueprints to drop down, set things, and build things really quickly. It's quite handy. Alright, we need more of these. Let's build some supplies so we're not bogged down waiting for stuff to get crafted. Let's grab those. We'll make some more assemblers. I'm going to take a minute and craft a bunch of essential things that we don't have to stop and do this every 10 minutes. And I see we got a follow from TFG. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Hopefully you enjoy your stay amongst the Space Bees. Enjoy the emotes. Like I was telling the chat at the top of the stream, I'm probably going to be playing Dyson Sphere Program on stream off and on leading up to that update. I haven't quite decided because we've got a couple different playthroughs running on the channel here. I'm playing through Pokemon Infinite Fusion and Blasphemous, and now this one. So there's 3 concurrent playthroughs going, and I tend to rotate throughout the week. Mixed in, we also have drawing streams. I'll draw random things every once in a while on stream. We've got Beatbox Jam streams, which I was on a trip last week, so we haven't done one of those in a bit. That'll be next week, where we talk about beatboxing with the chat and also use chat ideas to make music. I don't know if you can hear it because it's a little bit low on the stream, but unlike the regular music in Dyson Sphere, I have it turned off and I'm listening to a BGM playlist. You can't see the track names anywhere, but the music in the background is my music that we've created partially on stream with chat. And those are royalty-free tracks that are out there for content creators to use. So if you are a streamer or content creator and you need free background music royalty-free, then you can find my stuff on Spotify, Tidal, and Bandcamp. I am really bad at promoting my stuff, but when someone new drops by, I try to mention it just in case they happen to be a content creator. Alright, I think we need more mining machines too. Let's do 5. TFG says, are you secretly Harris Heller? I am not Harris Heller. I think Harris Heller is much more famous and skilled than I am, if that's what I'm thinking of. Oh yeah, that guy. No, I'm not that guy. I wish. Alright, we got power poles. Looks like we can make some more turbines. We're gonna need turbines. JFG says probably more blonde than your blue hair. I thought the name sounded familiar, and then I just real quickly looked up who that is, and I used some of his resources a long time ago. So I knew that name sounded familiar. Oh, nope, I'm just your garden variety Z-tier VTuber streaming random stuff here on twitch.tv.com. Okay. Let's make some more coils, and then we'll work on automating this in a sec. I'm really curious to see how the PvP, or PvE rather, not PvP, the PvE update for Dyson Sphere works. That looks very interesting. It looks hectic. Basically the premise from what the devs have teased in the gameplay stuff they've shown so far. You've got your base and you're working towards your goal of creating a Dyson Sphere, but at some point you draw the attention of this hostile alien force that starts invading and attacking your base and blowing stuff up. And that looks nuts because, you know, it's fast. The pace looks very fast. TFG says I can share what I know if you want. Sure. I'm not too worried about spoilers. I've seen the gameplay previews, but I haven't looked at any deep dives or like devlog stuff on what they're doing with that update. So yeah, feel free to drop some more info if you've got it. I just know from the preview trailers it shows, you know, sprawling bases with crazy like tower defense style setups to fight off the enemies just getting nuked from orbit, Independence Day style, which is pretty interesting. But if there isn't a means to rebuild all your crap real quickly, then that could be very, very discouraging. Oh, okay. TFG says, the AI will scale with how much power you consume. Bigger you get, the more they try to hurt. Okay. So obviously when you're small scale like this and just a little startup base, they're probably not going to pay attention to you. But when you go interstellar and start harnessing more power and whatnot, then there'll be more of a presence, and then they'll actively try and hamper your efforts. That makes sense. Okay, let's grab some more stone. I'm gonna go build a mining machine over on the stone side too. That way I can just grab stone bricks or stone ore to make stone bricks when I need it. TFD says they'll fly by for a while until you start growing in the mid-game. Okay. Does that mean they'll be there, but they won't actively engage till you cross some sort of power consumption threshold, and then they'll start attacking your outposts? Interesting. I see. You'll notice them. They'll notice you in the early game. But I'm assuming there isn't a way to actively attack them until you have the means to defend yourself. Like, at this point in the game, I don't have any weaponry. So if they were flying around, I can't do anything to them. Okay. So they're basically like a competing force out there in the universe, competing with you. Okay. Let's take stock here. I built way too many ingots. Well, my immediate thought was, don't have a lot. I don't have a lot of copper here. So my thought was to build out a couple more smelters here, and then instead of having them feed into this belt, we divert them to a separate site. Like maybe sweep it around here, and then actually, that might not actually work. Let's see, we could use this too. Now that we have blueprints, maybe we can scrap this whole thing and then just make this easier. This gives us both the magnetic coils and the circuit boards. We just need input from the magnets, the ingots, both types of ingots, and then this gives us everything. I think I'd rather do that. It means we have to basically delete everything out, but now that we have the ability to just drop this in, this layout is way cleaner. Way cleaner. Okay. I'm gonna demo a whole bunch of stuff here. In fact, I think I'm gonna demo this. Maybe move this. No, I can't move it because of the water. Alright. Get rid of this. I didn't mean to get rid of that. Might need to get rid of... we'll leave that there for now. It's probably fine. So, 2 inputs. I'm gonna need to build more assemblers first. I think we have enough of everything else. Might need more belts. I can explain for people who haven't seen the blueprints how it works. It's very handy. It took me a minute to figure out how it works in this game compared to other ones. But when it comes to optimization, it's very handy. So if we take a blueprint for something, it'll tell us on the right side how many structures we need. So we're short on sorters. I'll have to make more. when we drop them in, your little drones will start building the entire blueprint all at once, as long as you have the components for it, and completely map out the series of structures, which is very handy. So if you are playing the game and you come up with a good setup or an efficient combination of building structures, whatnot, that works well, then you could save it as a blueprint, and then you can use it and replicate it later without having to build the whole thing from scratch. And so what we can do here is now we have our copper ingot source feeding into this line. These markers here tell us what the input should be, which is also very handy. And so we can actually take this, delete all this out, and run it from up here on the north side into the source that we need. The belts will run over each other. They can change in elevation. I haven't shown that off yet, but you can have them stack, essentially. You can make them go up and over things. They can go into the air. That is also something that was a bit new, since Factorio's belt system works differently than this one. But you can have stuff stacked up into the air, which is kind of cool. Okay, so now this is going over this way. What we can do... these finished building over here. And then this thing will be up and running once it drops the last couple sorters and belts. And now we can copy out these, and we're going to run this belt all the way across, and we'll stick it over here. TFG says all the storages are using several sorters which use power. A splitter with storage on top doesn't consume power, and it's faster. So if you put, again, I can look at this once I unlock it, and it'll probably make more sense, but if you put a storage on top of splitter, will it also accumulate things that the splitter is picking up and stick it into the storage? If so, that's insanely useful, and I wish I knew that on my original playthrough. Oh, okay. All right, we'll get there. I think what we can do is probably retool the way this base looks and integrate that and maybe save it as a new blueprint, because that is not something I've done before, but it sounds incredibly useful. But in the meantime, we're gonna kind of do this a little inefficiently till we can get the later stuff unlocked. I just want research stuff streamlined. Okay, if the outgoing belt is empty, it gets removed from storage. Okay, and then if the belt fills up and the production stops, then the overflow just goes into the storage on top of the splitter. Is that how that works? Oh, that's cool. Because the blueprint that I got for these setups and the mall stuff, which I'll probably put in later, these came from TDA, who's the Dutch actuary. I started watching his stuff on Dyson Sphere just to learn some basics. Yeah, I think these are from his initial series like a year or two ago. So I just grabbed the ones that seemed like they'd be useful for what I was building. So it doesn't surprise me that it's a little outdated, but that's okay. Oh yeah, I should probably go and deal with the power situation. Let's make some more of these. DFG says you can get those assemblers closer together. Oh, you mean on here? Even with the poles? Is it like one half space here maybe? Okay, yeah, I gotcha. Well, believe me, nothing I do is going to be efficient or pretty until we get a little bit later. I'm so used to the end game where I have all the upgrades and I can zip around and build stuff instantly like I want. So this is kind of a way to start from the beginning and talk through it for the folks on the stream who haven't seen this game before. But yeah, if everything's running here, I think we just tanked our power grid by adding a whole bunch of assemblers at once. We'll need to fix that. TFG says I don't download blueprints. Okay, you make your own. That makes sense. For me, since, again, I haven't been playing this game that long, I like looking at the setups people have made, and if it's efficient, more efficient than what I'm currently doing, then I'll use it. What I was doing on my last playthrough is I was kind of taking the setups that I was making and just using those for blueprints. But in the beginning, just to learn, stuff like this is helpful just to get stuff set up and running faster than if I just did it on my own, you know? Although that hydrogen setup blueprint I showed off earlier was really, really useful. I didn't have the ability to harvest hydrogen stars at my point in the game, and so having something to do that ended up being very, very handy. Oh, let's see. There's nothing up here. I'm going to throw some turbines up here and then wire them to the grid. TFG asked, do you bother with X-ray cracking for H2 for hydrogen? That's what that setup does. Yeah. So, yeah, I haven't been in chemistry for a long time. You'll have to excuse me. But yeah, so it's hard to see here because it's, again, this is just what the blueprint looks like. I can't make this stuff in here. But this setup uses the refineries, and it uses the raw oil refineries, like 2 of them, and then the rest are the X-ray cracking. And so it creates this cyclical thing that takes the components that are spat out from the regular refineries, and then it reroutes them into the other refineries to create an infinite thing that spits out the energized, whatever the coil, whatever the carbon, whatever it is, and the hydrogen. And it'll just go forever as long as it's being fed with crude oil. Graphite, thank you. And so it spits out hydrogen and graphite a lot. And it just keeps going. And you don't have to deal with diverting the refined oil that can stack up. Instead, it just recycles the whole thing. And then it constantly spits out graphite and hydrogen, which is really handy. I can show you real quick. I can show you on my other save. I don't mind jumping to that one real quick. Let's save this. I'll load the other one real quick, and then we'll jump back here and keep working on this one. Oh, okay. Give me a second. We can load this one up. I just won't save it. Okay, this will be a slight spoiler for late game stuff, but I think a bunch of people pieced out anyway, so they won't see this stuff. Where are we? I'm DFG says, oh, just started the sphere. Yeah, I ran into a bottleneck with resources, so I had to go back and start working on my supply chains because I ran out of rockets. I ran out of the components for rockets. It's a bit of a bottleneck. So, yeah, again, I need to go back and tweak some things. That's why I was setting up titanium farm on that other planet. Where's my refining field? DFG says, don't bother building a sphere on your home star. Oh, yeah. I found that out early on. This system I'm in is like the 4th system that I've started building in. I started off on a home star with a really like chaotic, stupid base. Then I moved to another one, did it a little bit better. Then I moved to another one, and then I moved to this one. So this one has the best, most efficient builds that I've done so far. It's gotten better. Anyway, this is what the cyclical refining thing does. I'm sure it's not the only setup to do this. It just looks the prettiest to me. What's the L value of the star? Is that luminosity? I don't know if 0.971 is good, but chances are I'm going to move to somewhere else after I successfully build a sphere here, just because I can do it a lot better again. But yeah, if we look at the star map. Oh boy. Oh, close to 3. Oh, so 0.9 is pretty low. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Less than 1 must be pretty low. That's fine. This is mostly just a test bed for now. I started in Homestar, started doing stuff in Sapphire, and then Emerald is where I started building the last major base. Got started on the Dyson Sphere, things got inefficient, then I moved over to the Gold Star system over here, and that's where I've been. But anyway, to talk about that refining thing, what's nice about this setup is that you can just start connecting them all together in a chain, and then it'll spit the graphite and the hydrogen into one separate spot. Again, I started doing this before I could harvest hydrogen stars, which is a little bit more efficient now because I can just send ships out there, but before I could do that, I needed hydrogen. I was starved for it everywhere. And this setup was way better than what I was doing before. What I was doing before was setting up rows of the refineries and like routing the refined to just storage. It was a mess. So this worked a lot better in like the mid game. DFG says this is using splitter variants. Is that what these things are? I figured they were just tall, like, multi-band splitters. I have not gotten to the point where I've used those yet, but oh yeah, look at that. You can't put them on top. Yeah, it's a splitter, but it's splitting multiple things at once, right? I've only used them in single levels. So I haven't gotten quite that advanced state yet. Alright, I don't want to show too much of the late game, but yeah, it's feeding in different belt levels. I didn't even know they could do that till I saw that blueprint.
After selecting the
yeah, whatever. Again, this game is a lot to learn, which is part of the reason why I wanted to show it off to everyone here, because it's interesting to talk about. I don't know if it's interesting to watch, but it's interesting to talk about and just experiment and learn.
wind turbine.
Okay. Let's see, how's our power looking? That's a little bit better. We'll leave that for now. We need to start building towards coal power anyway, I think. but we need to prioritize blue research. So now we've got our blueprint setup that I dropped in here, and it's set to spit out circuit boards and coils, the two components that we need for blue research, right? Yeah. Boy, would it have been embarrassing if that wasn't the case. But I think what I'm going to do, just to give us a setup, I need to build another one of these. But we're going to have this thing take in the components and start building the blue research. And then I want to build another one, yep, right next to it if I have room. I might be short. Or I can do it behind. It'll take the blue research out of the manufacturing site and use it to actually do the research. So to craft those, we need glass. We'll need to start pulling stuff out of our stone refining site over here eventually for bricks and glass. But until we do that, we'll just pull it out and start manually crafting glass. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting every time we have somebody new join the Space Bees. I'm really bad at this. Usually my mods are faster than I am, but for folks who are joining and want to hang out with the community, we do have a Discord. So if you feel so inclined, one, to hang out with the rest of the folks that you see here on stream, but also to see updates on the stuff that I'm working on, all that's in the Discord, so feel free to join if you feel so inclined. Started doing movie night in October. I kind of want to do that more regularly since doing movie watch-alongs can be fun. I haven't figured out when the next one's going to be yet. But I keep telling my community that they need to watch more classic 80s movies since I'm very old. Okay, let's see, what else can we make? Oh, make a whole bunch of these things. Perfect. Can't stack them yet, but that will be fine for now. TFG says, pretty sure I got you beat on the age thing. Not that it's a competition. Yeah? Are you almost 60 years old? If not, then I think I got you beat. How much does this thing hold? 10? Alright, 10. Alright, so what I'm going to do is once these things start crafting, I'm going to stick the second one right next to this other one and have it feed. TFG says, you don't sound like you're 50 at all. Thanks. I get that a lot. The blue-haired anime boy model probably doesn't help either. Like I always told my folks, if I was on stream with like a geriatric model sounding like, oh, I'm an old man, probably wouldn't do good for viewer retention, you know. Although I'm sure that's like a VTuber niche. Old VTubers. Geriatric squad. Alright. Let's put this here. And we'll power it. Oh, no, I think it's going to be too close, huh? Eh. You'd think I'd have the minimum structure distance thing memorized by now, but I clearly don't. Okay. What we've done here is we've set up a production, a blue research production, and a blue research station. So this thing will take what it needs from the manufacturer, and it'll just consume it and start researching. This setup won't stay this way in the long term, but for the blue tier of research for now, it'll be fine for getting us the first couple. And now we've got plasma control. And it didn't give us any of the wireless ones. That's perfect. But with that, we've got a good avenue, at least in the short term again. And we could duplicate the setup. I think I've got room. Yeah, alright, let's do this. Do 2 and 2 for now. You get the ability to stack these things later, and I believe the stacking just makes them go faster and more efficiently. But until then, we'll do this. Do I get one stack now? Oh, I do. Oh. Is it 3 by default? Alright, well. Up to 3 to start. Okay. Noted. I totally didn't do that on my last playthrough. I just assumed I couldn't do it right away. Storage up to 2. Labs up to 3. Okay. I need to build one more. I think what I'll do is I'll leave this set up here, and then when we eventually get through all of the blue research, and hopefully I'll be able to build out some more space, and we'll move things around and create another site. Kind of like the idea of all of the research stuff in one spot, and then just feeding in all of the required components from different angles so that it's all in one isolated area, and it's a lot cleaner and easier to manage that way. I don't know what I'm going to do with these. I might just bury these. They're kind of in the way. So we've got clusters all over the place. Alright, let's look at research. I think steel. I'm going to go steel. Oh, that's 400. Let's go steel, improve logistics. Then we go environment. I want to start filling in the area around, making some room. Smelting purification is how we get energetic graphite, silicon ore, refinement, semiconductors. Those are components. Might have to beeline to thermal power next. That's cheap. We'll do that. This is a different power source that consumes combustible materials to generate power, and it outputs more than the wind turbines. So if you have a lot of coal, like we do, you can set up a bunch of power station farms and use the coal accumulation to generate power. And I didn't realize you can put graphite in these. I realized that about 50 hours into my last playthrough. I was just using coal all the way up through the mid-game, and I realized you could put graphite in there and it lasts a little longer. Eventually I swapped that out for, was it deuterium rods? That's the power generation I'm currently on in the save I showed you folks a second ago. There it goes. Okay, so that's off and running. I think what I will do is start creating more components to start mapping out some of these other things, like get a smelting set up over here. Got raw ore we can turn into bricks. Eventually we'll need to turn some into glass. Let's do this. Try and be a little cleaner. I miss having all my logistics drones and robots flying everywhere. We'll get there. Okay, now we got these creating stone bricks. I'm beginning to see the utility for the sorter storage or splitter storage thing that TFG was talking about. I tend to do overflow things on all my setups just so I can go get the materials if I need to create stuff by hand. Having that be integrated in the splitters instead of being like just taking up space sounds like a game changer. I'm gonna have to go back and revamp my entire base and my other save now that I know that. So it's a good thing you told me, or I would have not realized that was a thing. DFG says having that buffer is dope because then you can put hats on the storage. Hats, you mean like the logistics distributor thingies? Yeah, that would be really useful because there's a bunch of components that I would have flying all over the place just from storage chests. If I can have things routed from the local logistics bots, that would be, again, very, very handy. Hats with the fidget spinners. Okay, I gotcha. Okay, let's put an overflow chest just for now. I'm gonna move this later, but...
You built a storage, which can be used to store cargo. You can manually...
Yeah, I got you, TFG. You're actually the first person I've talked to that plays this game. One of my friends who told me about it. I don't think he's played it as much as I have, but I don't know anybody else who's played this, so I've never really interacted with someone else who knows terminology from it. Oh, I didn't even realize I was empty. Now, have the devs said when this game is going to be out of early access? With the PvE update in December, that's not launch. I think they would have said if that was going to be launch, right? It makes me wonder when they're actually looking at releasing it. I know Factorio was in early access for like, what, 3 years? A lot of time. I heard about this game like 2 years ago. I heard about it, but I didn't start playing it seriously till earlier this year. Okay, how are we looking on supplies? Let's... Where's another iron site? We need to get steel. Steel has always been my early game bottleneck. Let's see if we can do better this time. We could run smelters up here, since we're not using a ton here for I was saying for the magnets, or we can build out more magnets since there's going to be higher demand later. Maybe we do that. I don't think 3 smelters is going to cut it. Yeah, I'm going to put a separate line. So if the upcoming major update for Dyson Sphere Program is not the full release, it makes me wonder what the devs have planned for the quote-unquote full release of the game. Obviously, adding PvE is a big game changer, and it dramatically changes the way the game plays. But I wonder if they're going to add something like co-op. The ability to have like collective games and base building and stuff. That would be cool. Oh, there's already a mod for multiplayer? Interesting. I'm not surprised. There's a pretty extensive mod scene for this game from what I read. Build some more sorters as well. Get more research. I'm gonna go for mech upgrades. This one needs engine. Okay, we'll get steel shortly. Let's go for communication control. More drones. Oh, we can do this one. No, we don't have the graphite yet. We will. We will soon. Okay, I'm going to run a line for ore to ingots to steel. I don't think I'll be able to hook it up to anything yet, but we'll at least have it so we can start using it to create foundation, because that's what I want to do. Before we wrap up the stream for today, I want to get foundation so that I can start giving myself more land mass to work with, and then that'll probably be good for today's stream. So if we run this parallel, now do people use the one-to-one setup for something that goes directly from one component to the other? Like, would they go smelter to ingot and then ingot directly to it's smelter again, right? It's double smelter. Yeah. Would they do a one-to-one for that? Because that's not a setup I've done before. I wonder how efficient that is. Actually, let's start further out. No? So they go initial setup, belt out, and then they run it to the next setup? Oh, 3-to-1. Okay. Because what I've always done is I've done first tier, then the belt, and then the next row of smelters for the second tier. Yeah. Okay. I'm always curious to see from people who've played this game more than I have what the most efficient setup is for everything. Okay, so we want ingots, and then we're going to smelt this into steel. Yep, I'm working on the shift click. It's trying to make it a habit. Might take me a few hours, but I'll get it eventually. So here's another question based on efficiency of output. Might be a stupid question, but it's something I always wondered. Does it make a difference if you build the next tier of smelters directly to pull off of this line? Or because does it make sense to give like a routing to have the stuff path around? So here's what I've done on a couple of them. I've done this to actually give like a buffer runway, and then I put the smelters down adjacent to this one, so they're pulling off of the buffer, not the output directly. I don't know if that's more efficient or if there's a better way to do it, but that's what I've done on a couple of mine. So like that, and then the next row, you know, yada 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 over this way. TFG says a lot of people do that. It's a nasty factorial habit. Oh, it's definitely a factorial habit. As a person who's put a lot of time into that game, that's definitely where it comes from. But is there a better way to do it when you're feeding from one to the other? 'Cause another thing I've seen is where people will feed component 1 into a storage and then overflow it into another belt and then have that one eat everything. Oh, I see. TFG is saying put the next row of smelters further down the line parallel. Wouldn't be on the it wouldn't be on the same line though, because you have to have it outputting differently, and I'm out of space anyway. I don't think I have a choice because I've only got vertical space here. But let's see. We're trying to say here. Would you put them out this way? Continuing but in the same direction, or would you put them in line and just have the input output switch? I guess you could do that too. You basically have them continue out this way, but instead of going input output, it goes input output from the bottom and then feed it out to wherever you need it. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Can't really do that here, but I'm gonna have to do another steel site anyway, so we'll just wrap it around. We'll be dirty Factorio heathens for a little bit. Oh, it is. I see what you're saying. TFG says you can only feed 2 smelters for steel right now anyway. I need to pay attention to ratios. That's something that I need to get better at doing in this game. Yep, you're right. So we would need another 3 in order to put a third one. Yeah, I gotcha. So we'll run the belt, and then we'll dump it into a chest here at the end for now. Yeah, I've been dragging when I shift click. You have to click the first copy, and you can just drag it. Yeah, that's what I've been doing. TFG says, any last minute questions? I gotta bounce. No, I think we're good. By the next time, I'll probably have the splitters and stuff unlocked, so I'll start messing around with that in build and get used to how that works, since that's the most significant thing I've learned today. Oh, you can change spacing with tab. Well, not that way. Oh, when dragging. Oh, I see. Okay, that's good to know too. Very good. But no, I don't have any other immediate questions. I'm sure I'll have more later as I proceed through the early game, into the mid game, into the late game. So again, thanks for jumping on and giving me some pointers, and also thanks for joining the community. Feel free to join the Discord if you feel so compelled. But I guess I'm sure we'll be talking again the next time I stream this. Probably be next week. I'd like to do this somewhat frequently so we're making progress and not just checking in occasionally. Okay. Get rid of all these copper ingots. I'll put them in here for now. And I need to see what to research next. Grab improved logistics. Get those splitters. Smelting purification. Go fluid storage. Do all these cheap ones. Engine. Hey, we can craft foundation finally. This takes steel and bricks and creates these platforms. I can start filling in the area around my base and give myself more room. Depending on where we end up when the stream is done, maybe I'll do some of that offline and then maybe retool the base slightly to kind of change the setup, but I won't do progression so I can show people active progression. Okay, we've got fast sorters. These are the Mark IIs, which will pull things quicker than the other ones. Traffic monitors? I don't really use traffic monitors. I've seen people use these to sort of measure output on different things to make sure things are proportional, but other than that, I don't really use these. They probably serve some advanced function that I don't know about. I'll have to figure that out later. I'm gonna keep crafting up foundation. Let's go. I'm gonna do some bulldozing, and we have a raid from Toxicure Wazi, raiding with 22 people. Good lord, what's up, crew? How's everybody doing today? Let's see, Axo from Axo, Jewel Thief Dave, Fish with Knife. Thanks for the follow, Rave Stardust. Welcome, folks. Let me give a shout out for Wazi. Hey, it worked. Thanks for the follow, Fish with Knife. What were you folks doing today? Oh, Kukuro. I saw Wazi was streaming that. What is that? What kind of game were all of you playing? I can only imagine. I assume it involved a lot of yelling as is common with Wazi streams. We are playing factory automation simulation game Dyson Sphere Program today. Ever wanted to be an intergalactic logistician and engineer? Then that is what this game is about. Fish says it's like a pixel party game thing. Fish says this game looks pretty AF. Yeah, this game is... It's okay, so just to explain for folks jumping on, Dyson Sphere Program is a, again, automation simulation type game. It is early access right now. It's been around for a couple years. But it involves researching technology to build tech, improve tech, and progress on an exhaustive tech tree as you start on this random planet, and eventually get the ability to branch out from the planet you start on into other planets and eventually harness the power of the stars. And so what we were setting up today, we started from scratch. This is the first day playing this game on stream. What we did was we are establishing a simple base to produce all of these different components, and then we were trying to build up the tech tree to build onto the next tier of complexity, and eventually we'll start adding in more of these automated factories and whatnot, and eventually try and get off the planet and start colonizing the stars and other planets as well. It's a cool game. It's a little bit complicated to learn, but it's not too bad. What I am doing at the moment is taking raw materials and using it to craft landscaping. We're currently in an area that's bordered by water everywhere, and I need more space to build. So I'm trying to fill in all these spots so that I can branch out and start adding in more structures. In addition to dropping down structures and whatnot, there's a crafting system that I'm using to create things on the fly out of my inventory. My inventory is a cluttered mess right now. But we're taking all the raw components, crafting things, and then we're using structures to craft things. And we're trying to automate it all. Alright, so we know it's 3-to-1. 3 of the iron ingots to 1 of the steel beams, which is what we're smelting down here. So let's add another 3 over here. Let's extend this out first. Using our belts, transport things to and from. Fish says, have to turn up the volume because you talk chill compared to Wazi. That is understandable. Like I said, I assume whatever you folks were playing was, especially if it's like Fish says, a pixel party type game, there was lots of shenanigans and lots of yelling. Oh, I absolutely agree. It's definitely her brand. In the time I've known Wazi, I've gotten used to her yelling and being yelled at. That's why whenever we're in a Discord call, her volume is proportionally lower than everybody else on the call. And I can tell you folks from experience, she is absolutely the same when it comes to interacting in real life. I've been yelled at by her in person many times. Very on brand. And we wouldn't have it any other way. Okay, with the 3-to-1 setup, if we wanted to build more, we have to extend out some in one other direction. The reason why it's 3-to-1, talking about ratios of components, we need 3 of the iron ingots for 1 steel beam. So each of these smelters that's creating the iron ingots can feed 1 of these. And so it was recommended to me to pay attention to the ratios for the different components. So I definitely should continue to keep that in mind. But what we will do to give us more space is keep incrementally, while we wait for the steel beams to get constructed, is start filling in the land around our base to give us more room to build. These platform looking things are basically structures that are filling in the ground and making it buildable. Now let's see what else we can research next. These structures here, for folks who've never seen this game before, these big tower structures are matrix labs. These are research facilities that are crafting these blue cubes. And the cubes, the matrices themselves, are used to research things in that tech tree. So if we go over to, let's say, the second tier here, the semiconductor material requires 200 of these blue cubes. So when we set it to research, these structures start pulling in the resources from the belts here to create the cubes, and they spit the cubes into these second row of towers. And it'll start researching the tech, which will start ticking down here in the corner. TFG says, I don't have audio, but you might want to reduce your foundation profile using minus. I didn't even know you could do that. Oh, I know you can increase it either. That would have been useful in my other save. Gotcha. So if I don't need to fill in as big of an area. Got it. Oh. It still has the same radius. Let's see. If it goes down to 1. Oh, okay. Like, I guess I want 2 by 2, huh? Well, that was very helpful. Thank you, TFG. TFG is a more experienced Dyson Sphere Program player than me. So they were telling me on stream earlier some helpful pointers and tips of things I didn't know, which is a lot. Okay, I need more stone bricks. Okay, I'll toggle between 1 by 1 and 2 by 2 just to see where I need it, depending on how much space I need to fill. Does it change the amount of soil piles you use? $572. Yeah. Oh, it does. Okay. I'll probably toggle between the 1 by 1 and 2 by 2. Fish says, I guess I'll chill out here and get all the pro tips before I even play. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. This is sort of like an intro to the game for people who haven't played it. And again, I've only probably spent maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred hours on the game since it's come out. And I still don't know everything. I haven't beaten it yet. But being efficient and learning how to play this game efficiently is part of the learning curve, right? So one thing that TFG was explaining earlier, if you want to take your structures, like we have our smelters creating stone bricks from stone ore, rather than placing down a new one and then setting up the sorters to pull input and output, if I just hit shift, click, and drag to another spot, the terrain I think is making it difficult. But you can basically copy a line of them all at once, which is very handy. And why is that? I think it's the terrain is uneven. Oh no, I just don't have the item. I'm out of smelters. And we were talking earlier. Let's go ahead and save. We're talking about the blueprint system, which allows you to take saved sets of structures and create blueprints to drop them all down at once. So this setup here with all of the orange structures that are creating these circuit boards and these coils. This was a set blueprint that I just plopped down once I had the space, and it built everything all at once. You don't have to do it structure by structure. Again, very efficient. Oh, let's see. Let's grab more of these. Can illustrate what I'm talking about with the shift copy. Just by holding shift down, we can drag a billion of these out if we wanted to, but I'll just do 3. And we need to create a separate line over here for glass eventually. These are stone ore, our basic harvestables right now. Stone ore, the blue crystals are iron ore, these black ones are coal, and the orange brownish ones are copper. And we're basically taking all those raw components and crafting them into things and using those to throw into other things as well. And I'm taking all of these steel beams and the stone bricks and creating foundation to, again, expand out our build area. And let's see, let's take a look at our power setup as well. So in order to power all these buildings and all of the different devices that are working, like the sorters and everything else, we need power. Right now, all of our energy is being generated by wind turbines, these red swirly thingies. These passively create energy and they provide power to like a power grid, which is what this faint blue or purple dotted lines shows the connected grid. These Tesla towers are like power poles. They route the power to all of the structures that need them in order to operate. And I could tell right away that we are running a bit low on power. If you take a look at the grid output, the blue ring is our total power capacity generation, and the yellow is how much is being consumed. So we are almost fully topped out, and if we exceed that, then everything's going to shut down and not operate. So to that end, we need to create some additional structures for power. And those are thermal power plants. These things function like power generation stations. But unlike the wind turbines, instead of just passively creating energy, they need to be fed with fuel. And in this case, we're going to be using coal once we get there. But first, we need to make more of those. Stone, iron, stone, gears, magnetic coils. Where's our bottleneck? Coils. We can just pull them directly off of our production line here, since we don't have a dedicated storage for these quite yet. Oh, I see we got a hydrate from a fish. Drink more water. Okay, we can outright craft 17 of these. That'll be good to start. Let's see what else we can upgrade. In case I didn't mention it earlier, the tech tree here on the upgrades tab, these are primarily upgrades for our mech. So things like the ability to see vein distribution. I should have grabbed that earlier. That's really important. I don't know why it's flashing like that. That's weird. We have energy capacity.
You have unlocked the universe exploration.
Can't do movement yet. We don't have these electric motors yet. We have inventory capacity, which we can grab now, actually. And those are static upgrades that improve the way your mech behaves, how it operates, and whatnot. Very useful. What I'm doing is I'm grabbing a bunch of the circuit boards off the assembly line here, since in addition to the steel, we need these to get our upgrade. Fish asked, but can you paint it red? Are you talking about the mech? You definitely can. You can completely customize this thing, actually. I just haven't really done it yet. So we can go main color. And we can make our mech boy here red. We can also swap out other colors. Let's see. Let's change this to like a blue. Let's give it some contrast. These are the joints. There we go. Purple's a little bit bright. Let's go like dark blue. We can also change the shape. I haven't done that a ton, but there's some parts that we could swap out. We can change the way they look. So there's a lot of customizable things with the mech itself, but we'll leave it like that for now. Alright. So that's being researched. I think what I'll do is I'll bury these just to make more room. Let's go over here and start working on our power situation. Oh, this is another good one. We'll grab this next. Actually, I'll grab this one next. This one's fun. Now we want to set up a power farming station here using coal. And I have a setup idea that I'll use here. I may have to optimize it later. If TFG was still here, I would have asked them the best route to go for coal power, but for now it's not a big deal. Actually, a faster way to do this. So let's set up mining stations here, and then we need to run power in order to get here. Which we can do from this site to here. And now we have this thing passively mining coal. As it's mining, I'm just pulling stuff off of this device because my research needs coal. Once it's done, I'll stop doing that. Put another one over here. Now we're going to run a belt slightly out of the entrance, and this is one thing I learned a little while ago. Actually, we'll go the opposite direction. And we'll just hook to the side. We put down thermal power plant.
A thermal power station.
Yep, got him. It's a tutorial guy. Oh, we don't need the tutorial guy. The way these things work is they take a fuel source, and right now we're using coal, and it uses it to burn and generate power. But you need a sorter in order to actually get the fuel into the target, and then I'll start running. We've got thermal power, and these will output more energy to our grid than the wind turbines. And what I learned is you can take these and have them feed each other and basically have a line that goes down. And I didn't know you could do that. I had them running off of a belt, which took up a lot more space. And I guess I'll do 4. I've seen setups with 3 per line. We'll do 4, and we'll see if we hit an efficiency limit at some point. And so now, if we take a look at our total output for power, our consumption is now taking up considerably less because we've added these much beefier power stations to bolster the grid. And as we continue to build the base out, we're going to need more power, so that's why we do this. And I'm going to duplicate the same setup over here. We'll go 4. Fish asks, can resources like coal be depleted? Yes. So the coal vein here, which you can see, it might be a little bit difficult to see on the screen, but I'll zoom in. This deposit has 3,075,900 something that's ticking down, and that corresponds to all these deposits in total. It's like a cluster with a total value, and the miners here deplete each stack slowly over time. And you can see how it's allocated per thing here. So yes, resources are finite, but depending on the concentration, they will take longer to run out. If we take a look at our entire planet, and we turn on the resource viewer,
you can hold down.
Yeah.
In the planet view mode.
Yep, got it. We can see all of the deposits all the way around the planet that we've started on here. So we've got a clustering of iron, which is the blue, copper, stone, coal, and oil, which we haven't started harvesting yet. And over here on the right, we have a wrap-up of everything on the planet. So in total, there is 7.6 million iron ore, 4.091 million copper, No silicon, no titanium. 14 million stone, 32 million coal. The ocean type is water. And we have an oil accrual rate of 49.12 per second. And so this tells us our spread of resources here. But if we were to go and zoom out to give you a sense of scale in this game, we are here on Homeworld. We're actually orbiting a gas giant, which I guess that'll be useful later. But if we look at the actual planetary system, the central star here is in the middle. And each of these nodes, you can see faintly on the orbital thing here, these are other planets. And these planets have their own set of resources. We can't see them because I don't have the upgrade for it yet. But each of the planets has their own resource drops and allocations. And if we scroll out further, each of these glowing dots is another planetary star system. That's not what I want to do. Each of these glowing dots is another planetary system with its own set of planets, its own stars, its own fuel, and there's different star types, system types, and all that. So to give you a sense of scale for Dyson Sphere Program, we start on one planet trying to research all this stuff and whatnot, but eventually we get the ability to travel interplanetary, intergalactic here, and build on other planets and start building systems that'll harvest materials from all these other worlds and do things like interstellar logistics, where we've got a base on one planet using light speed to shuffle resources to another planet and whatnot. And so the scope of the game is big. It's very, very big. And even though this is a finite generation of stars in this whole cluster here, and dozens of them, even though that's the extent of what's generated here, it would probably take you thousands of hours to see them all if you really wanted to. And so that's kind of where we're headed. But for now, we're starting local. And so it should be a fun journey. I think the reason why I wanted to play this on stream is because this game is very interesting. It's kind of complicated. It's a bit of a technically complex game. But the scope is really vast, and you can do a lot. And even though we've got kind of a humble, simple base here, as we go, things will build out, and we'll be able to look back and say, here's where we started, and now we've become intergalactic logistics overlords. And that's pretty fun. Let's continue the research here so I can show off this upgrade before we get ready to wrap up for today. This is the drive research. So our mech right now has got a pretty slow plotting pace, but with the drive engine upgrade, if we double tap spacebar,
you have received the ability to fly.
Now we can fly around.
Click the space key to lift off.
It does consume power pretty quickly until we upgrade our energy capacity, but it allows us to get around the planet and around our base much faster than just hoofing it on foot, which is pretty fun. And one thing I think I will do, let's go build more of the mining machines while we kind of start patching up the areas around our base. Which I'll go grab more steel. We'll have that in the background too. Fish says I've heard of it before, but it looks relaxing to play. Yeah, this game, it is pretty relaxing to play. And it's very easy to have the hours fly by. There's been a couple nights where I've said, I'm going to play a little bit before I go to bed, and then the next thing I know, it's tomorrow. But it's a complex game, so when you're kind of learning what I did, since, again, I don't really know anybody who plays this game, I went on YouTube and just looked up some tutorials from people out in the community to see, like, you know, how do you use this particular building, or how does this particular piece of tech work? And that's how I sort of figured out how to do everything. I recommend people who pick it up do that. That way you're not just kind of stuck and wandering in limbo trying to figure out what to do. Makes it a bit easier to kind of pick up the basics, and then you start looking into things like advanced blueprints and things people have made. Oh, we're out of soil piles. Okay. Whenever we flatten an area, we get soil piles that contribute to our terrain leveling foundation. So we need to clear more space out and get more soil piles. We'll do that later. And as you can see here on the replicator screen, which again, this is our local inventory crafting, just with stuff that's in our inventory here on the left. These are all the structures we can build, and these are all of the resource items we can build. This grid, more or less, I'm trying to remember from a late game save I've got, eventually fills up with stuff that you can make. I think it's completely full in this version of the game. Same with the buildings. So as we unlock tech and proceed further, we eventually will grab more structures and things that we want to build and start using. As you can see, like I said, big scope. And one thing we were talking about earlier, I think it was before everyone jumped on with the raid, this game has been in development for a couple years, but in December there is a really big update coming that is going to introduce PvE. So right now it's just us. We're just here on the planet learning how to build and upgrade and progress through the tech trees. When that update hits, there's going to be a hostile enemy force, these aliens, that are going to show up, and they will blow your base up if you've proceeded to a certain level of complexity in the game. And so ahead of that update, I wanted to play through the game and learn how to play it effectively so that when we get to the PvE update, we can jump straight in and deal with all that. Fish says, I hope they maintain a free play mode. Even right now, there is a sandbox mode, which I think is more kind of like creative for things like Minecraft. I imagine there'll be a toggle, like when you're just learning the game, if you want to toggle the enemy encounters off, I think you'll be able to disable it and play it like it is now. I don't think they'll take that out. But I'm really curious to see how the enemy interactions go, because if you look up on their YouTube channel for Dyson Sphere Program, what they've demoed looks nuts. Like waves of enemies from space nuking your base and blowing up all your buildings, and you're trying to fight them off with like surface to air rail guns and all sorts of cool stuff. So it'll definitely be interesting. And hopefully by the time we get closer to their release, which is in the middle of December, we'll have taken our basic base here and upgraded and hopefully gone intergalactic and started really optimizing the whole setup of everything. That's the goal. Okay, I'm going to leave this there for now. Eventually we'll probably swap that out with something else. But let's put a couple fuel stations here with our thermal plants. That way we can continue to contribute to the power grid. And then I think we will wrap up for today. based on these, this should give us even more capacity to our grid, and we should be set for a little while. That was the whole point of sort of side questing to do this. Total capacity. Is that our total? Yeah, 34.6 megawatts, I guess. Our total consumption is hovering right at around between 6 and 7 megawatts. So yeah, I think we've done all right for our power consumption for now. Eventually, the needs of our base will grow beyond what we've got here, and we'll have to branch out even more and go for an even more advanced source of power. But until then, that'll serve its purpose. Alright, let's go ahead and save, and let's take stock of what we've done. This will be a bit more apparent in the VOD, which will also go up on YouTube after I get off stream today. But we started off with just a little tiny series of buildings on this central island, accumulating our basic resources from iron and copper and stone. And now we have fleshed things out to a bit more robust of a setup, using our resources to create the components for the blue research here. Which, let's see, I'll grab that next. And make sure we're always researching something. Moving up the tech tree. Yeah, we can grab that. This will tell us the resources on other planets too. We can show that off next time. Eventually we'll need to progress up the tree to get the next color of research, which is red, which requires its own set of materials. And then that gives us access to the next tier. If we look at the tech tree here, I think we've got a couple more things to unlock using blue. Solar collection, the first iteration of proliferators, which we can look at too. Oil extraction. That's the next major resource. You can queue that one up. Extracting, refining oil, and using that. We've got, I think that's pretty much it, which is going to get us to the next tier. And you can see here, if I scroll to the right, there's a lot of technology to upgrade and implement before we get all the way down here, which is the end, quote-unquote, end of the game. And before we even get close, we'll have to venture off-world, find some other planets to harvest. And that'll be our destination in the long term. Yeah, TFG, we're talking about the update. That's what I thought. So the hostile AI force will be toggleable, which is probably good for someone on their first playthrough to just play the game in its natural state like this and learn, and then maybe do like a second playthrough later to figure out how to like build to fight the AI and whatnot. That's why I'm doing this now. But good to know. Thanks for confirming, TFG. Fish says, I just like building more than fighting. If you like experimenting around with automation and learning how to build and figure out efficient ways to do things, you would like this game a lot. It takes a bit to learn because, again, it's kind of complicated to figure out. But once you have a good grasp on what everything does, then it becomes a matter of figuring out build styles and experimenting with blueprints. And it's pretty open-ended as far as how you can approach the whole idea of, again, intergalactic logistics and building stuff. Lava King says, frick, I'm 2 hours late. Oh, no worries, Lava King. We're just about wrapping up for today. But feel free to check out the VOD to see where we started. And you can hear the intro for the game and also hear the pointer tips. This is good for fish as well. The pointer tips that TFG gave me, since, again, TFG's new to the community, but they're an expert on the game, I would say. Like thousands of hours. And they gave me a lot of pointers on how to do some stuff that I didn't know. Fish says, I'm only here because Wazzy came over. And yes, thanks again to Wazzy for the raid. It is much appreciated. So let me go ahead and save this. Before we jump off for today, let me see who's online that we can raid and spread the good vibes to. Let's see. Let me go pull up my main list here. Oh, Ladybug is online. She is playing Shovel Knight again. Let us go and... let's go raid Ladybug, and we can spread the... spread the good vibes over there and see how Shovel Knight is going. So let me pause this. We'll mute the background audio real quick. And we'll go to outro. And so once again, thanks to everyone who came by and hung out. Again, shout outs to Wazzy for the raid. We will be back next week. I'm going to figure out the schedule. We'll probably be revisiting this game next week again to kind of continue the playthrough. So again, if you want to see where we started, check out the VOD after the stream. And I still need to figure out what else we're doing next week. But I hope everyone has had a not chaotic Black Friday for those of you who observe Black Friday. But again, thanks for hanging out. Have a good evening. Now let's go see how the Shovel Knight is going on Ladybug's stream.